You're listening to the Rich Dad CryptoVerse podcast, where the force of financial education merges with the power of cryptocurrency. Here's your host, Robb LeCount.
Welcome back, everybody. I don't know how to start this today. I'm going to start it by saying that I am heavily invested in the project or the person that we are talking to today. And also, I love everything that they've done from a community perspective. And I really just wanted to have a discussion today with everyone and just explain the importance of community. It's important to Rich Dad. The Rich Dad community is, we wouldn't be a company without the community. And I think there's a lot of parallel sort of goals between Loki from the Thor project and what Rich Dad is doing, because Rich Dad's always been about traditional economics. And this is a new, like, Wild West version of economics. And I just wanted to sit down and talk to somebody that knows what it's like to intentionally build a community, because community is really the key to everything actually in life. I mean, without belief, without support, everything fails, right? So I want to introduce my new friend, Loki. He is from the Thor project, Thor Financial. I am personally invested in this. So this isn't advice. This isn't me shilling. This is really me just wanting to have a discussion, because I've learned a lot from this community. This community was built from love, from interest, from, like, I don't know, but I've learned a lot from it. And this is the person that built it. So I think it's just interesting to learn the importance of community just in general. And that's what we're going to talk about today, man. I am so excited to talk to you. I can't even tell you.
Well, I'm so honored to be here. You know, I've been a big fan of the entire Rich Dad organization for a long time, ever since I first read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So it's a little bit of a starstruck moment for myself to be able to have an opportunity to have a great conversation with you about something that we're all passionate about, which is the future of this industry being DeFi, and how to build real quality, engaged, dedicated communities within a Wild West space that's completely full and operates on this gray area. I'm very honored to be here. I'm very thankful to be here. And thank you so much for having me, Rob.
Man, thank you so much. So, like, I just want to really, well, you know what? First off, I have to give a couple of shout outs. I have to give a shout out to my coach, Kate. Rich Dad really believes in education. And last November, I took a chance and I was like, I want to learn about passive income and cash flow within crypto. So I went out and found a coach, because honestly, I have a lot of stuff going on. A coach is sort of a quick start way to do stuff. So Kate introduced me to Thor as part of my educational process. So I really want to just give a shout out. I appreciate that. Also, I know this is going to sound weird to everybody that isn't on Discord, but Demon Yaffitz is a mod over at Thor. And he's sort of the one that made this interview happen. And between him and DGen Sigma, I know, again, weird. Thanks, you guys. You sort of made this happen. And it's fun. This is educational. I just want everybody to understand, like, how important this could be to everybody's lives. And again, I am not shilling for this project at all. Anyway, Loki, how did you guys create such a freaking amazing, supportive, educational Discord channel? And for anybody who doesn't know what Discord is, just think of an old school, like, forum or like a huge group text with, like, channels. We're creating one for our show. So if you guys want to get into it, wait for a later date. But, like, how did you guys build such an awesome community? I mean, like, why is it just so cool to hang out in?
I have a lot of people to thank in order for that to be achieved. I'll be honest. When I first started over at Thor, I was brought on originally as just a mod, and I've slowly worked my way up and really demonstrated my ability to build out these communities. And that really has come from me being a member of the communities. I don't come from a historical background of running protocols. I don't come from a background of knowing running past communities or coming from a developer perspective. I come from the investor perspective. 4 months ago, I was an anon random degen hopping from server to server, from DAO to DAO, getting rugged, making some money here, losing money here, and really seeing a real lack of transparency and communication and respect being shown for investors from the people who are running the protocol perspective. So as I came on to Thor as a mod, I really demonstrated to the developers that I have a different way of different mentality and a different philosophy on how communities should be built and how communicational channels should be done. And that is by the forefront by showing respect to our investors and letting our investors know that they have a very clear line of communication out to the core team, and understanding that that it's not just historically speaking in this industry, it's been a lot of communities versus the developers, and the communities have to force the developers to do the right thing. And what we've done, and the new thing that we've introduced, is we've introduced this third party, which is not a developer and it's not a member of the community. It's that intermediary between the two, and having that intermediary that comes from that community background allows us to build a much stronger dedicated community without a lot of toxicity and without a lot of issues and infighting within communities that you see that exist in other communities. From my perspective, it's all about the communication. It's all about transparency. It's all about treating investors right and respectfully. Last time we had an issue, I did a 4-hour AMA with our community. And that was something that, was never really been done in this space before. And what that did is that demonstrated our dedication and our respect to our community as a whole. And what we've also never done is we've never focused on some of the community building mechanisms that I think you see other protocols falter with. And that's things like invite contests or giveaways and things like that, which in my mind, I think that breeds a lot of disloyal people who are just looking for the next fix on getting a whitelist or
honestly, they sound very desperate. They sound like desperate mechanisms.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of an artificial way of padding out, your community, which, in the short term makes you have a really nice number to look at, but it doesn't necessarily translate into dedication and engagement. So what I've done is I've taken my mentality of community building. I've then, distributed that mentality and that philosophy out to my moderation staff. And that's created a really conducive, fantastically positive community of everybody that seems to really like each other, get along with each other, want to help out each other, and we're all fighting for the same goal, which is to have Thor become the most successful passive income DeFi as a service project out there.
Yeah, I've been with Rich Dad a long time, back in the day of when we had forums, and I remember that we tried to find and assign people as moderators of our forum, right? And they never really ever seemed to be passionate or work out like we had hoped they would. But then like out of the blue, you just find these people within our ecosystem that just seem like they get it, like they care, and they just start doing it. Like, have you guys sort of experienced that same kind of thing?
One of the biggest hurdles that we faced when we first launched was having a moderation team that essentially did not have the same level of commitment or dedication into the community or the same mentality that I had. And what that did is that really overwhelmed myself, because as our community would continuously grow, we'd hit 10,000 people in our Discord server. I felt like everything was on my shoulders. And so what we did is over time, I really monitored some of the more active community members, and I've reached out to those active community members and I've trained them. And, I think it's been a complete and utter game changer to where we could start to incorporate into our moderation staff people from the community. And the more dedicated people from the community are already dedicated to the concept of the project. They're already dedicated to the success of the project. They have their own vested interest in making the project work. And that all translates into their engagement and their conversations within the community to maintain that high level of quality. And that's the kind of the secret that we've held up our sleeve, is that I'm I'm a firm believer now, and this experience completely cemented it in my mind, that everybody who should be, in a leadership position within a community should have come from that community as a whole, because they're the people who really fundamentally understand that community integration. They understand how the culture, our own culture within our community operates, and they're helping to police that and make sure it's a safer space for everybody. So we don't align into that groupthink mentality where that pushes a lot of rational people out. That's something that we never want to encourage. So we never really ban people. But what we do is we turn a lot of the people who have issues with us over to allies. And that's done through having, very clear conversations, allowing people to be very critical about times, especially when there's issues that we're facing. We don't put our head in the sands. And what that does is that promotes quality conversations and constructive criticism rather than just blind hate, and allow that hate snowball to just continuously, build up as it goes down that mountain. That's one of the other things that other protocols you'll find seem to have serious problems with, and that comes down to communication. When a community does not feel like they're engaged with the actual people who are running the protocol, then all of a sudden one person says something negative, another person goes on, and if there's nobody there to help police that, steer that conversation into a constructive manner, then you're facing this just constant hate. And you've seen many protocols being taken down from their own communities from, falling into those kind of pitfalls. And that's something that we really wanted to make sure over at Thor that we never faced from the beginning. And that, once again, has to do with having much more open dialogue with our community and allowing much more open dialogue. And what you see is that the community really appreciates that, having a very clear channel where they can feel like they can talk about anything and, not just be written off or not just be pushed aside, and know that their opinions and their voices are being heard from not only the moderation team, but from the core team as well.
Well, it's funny. It's because it gives you someone to be pissed at instead of something to be pissed at, right? Like, I just think I've been in actual discords before where people are talking smack and the moderators are like pounding onto it and adding to it. So like, the reason I really, really, really wanted to talk to Loki about this is because like, it is a really good litmus test for the viability, the long time longevity, sustainability of a project is like really the community that's built around it. And we had this same exact issue. The people we thought that would be the best like arbiters of our like protection, in reality, like half of them figured out their own intentions and used it in a different way. But man, the people that came from the community were the most eloquent. They took the time to like share the message, and they just understood it because they believe in it. And I appreciate the fact that you guys sort of embraced the exact same mindset as us. It's because your best supporters come from within. They're never people seeking to be supportive of you, right?
The people who are asking for mods are never the people that get the mod position, because honestly, and this is from my experience as well, there's always ulterior motives. There's always secondary motivations on why they're looking to take on a usually unthanked job, like being a moderator for tens of thousands of people. And so I totally agree. I think, everybody has, their own motivations behind their own actions. And what the best community building that you can do is when you can align your motivations and their motivations both towards that same goal. And so by promoting community members from within to help form that leadership team within the community itself, that possesses us into a much more unique position to where all the moderators have their own vested interests, and their own vested interests are the further continued success of our community and our protocol. And that's the way that we've been able to build from 2,000 people in our Discord to 10,000 to 20,000, and now we're at about 53,000 people in our Discord. We've seen, a nice sustained rate of growth. And that has all come down to being able, not only having a really high quality protocol, making sure that we're trying to do everything right and ethically and being transparent at it, but also having those community members help build up, the entire community as a whole, and have those conversations that people want to have and feel comfortable having.
So you and I, before this, we chatted about like the difference between organic people coming to your protocol or your product or your website or your plumbing business, whatever it is, the value difference between like the wide net hey, we're going to pay and throw this net out. Hopefully maybe a fish catches, compared to like word of mouth advertising, how important that is to the growth of a community.
Well, I think what we've done is we've really demonstrated to the wider world that the power of word of mouth marketing is so much more superior than any form of paid marketing that you're going to get out there. And that really comes down to, and I'll announce this publicly now. Thor Protocol has spent $0 to grow. And we are, not to toot our own horns here, but we're probably, if not the largest node community in DeFi, period. We have over 50,000 people on our Twitter. We have over 50,000 people in our Discord. All of that came from an advertising cost of $0. How was that achieved? That was achieved by just doing things right, running a community from the community, from a community member's perspective, rather than a vested interest from the protocol runner's perspective, has allowed people to feel much more safer within a singular community and feel much more comfortable, participating within this ecosystem and telling their friends about this ecosystem. And so we've seen explosive growth. We've seen huge rates of sustained growth, and we've seen huge rates of people who just like to stick around and just chat in the Discords because, we've done things very differently than other people. And, I think what we've done is we've demonstrated that this is a better strategy. I think we see ceilings of success from a lot of these other protocols that or projects or businesses or whatever that goes down the pure paid advertisational route, right? You can go to shillers on Twitter and offer them money or offer them, a couple nodes or whatever, do giveaways and stuff like that. But what you see is every single project that does that seems to have a ceiling on how big their community can grow. And also, just within their communities, you can see the amount of engagement levels are significantly less than ours. And that really comes down to, because I think it's almost a dishonest way of building a community, when realistically, if you just do things right, if you just communicate with your community, if you just show them respect, the community markets the protocol itself.
And it's mutually beneficial, which is nice. It's mutually beneficial. Like win-win. It's in like Rich Dad is about work, right? It's about studying. It's about learning. Like getting into these communities isn't just about like joining it. It's about engaging in it. It's asking questions. It's seeing how the community responds to your questions, regardless of how dumb you might think they are. For me, it's my favorite learning tool. I shared this with you. Like you could, like some people like YouTube, some people want to go to like the local college. Yep. Like I like personally people, tell me everything about everything I deal with. So Discord is the space for me, but like you guys have done an absolute amazing job of making a great space for people just to learn and understand what community is all about, honestly.
Well, I so appreciate that, and that's been one of that's been almost our ace up our sleeve, and that's been our unique proposition to the market, because this is something that we exist within this morally ambiguous gray area of a market, and that's because we're inherently brand new to this world, and we are a completely unregulated industry. And what that does is that breeds a lot of malicious actors to have free reign to take advantage of individuals, to take advantage of people's lack of information, lack of understanding. And what that does is that negatively affects the industry as a whole. I think it's potentially an existential threat to this industry. And so what we want to do is we want to simultaneously create a protocol that makes money and makes that passive income for everybody, but also educates people and helps to progress this industry. I think it's really important. And I think DeFi is coming to this tipping point where evolution needs to happen. I think we have two simultaneous major pressures that are affecting our industry as a whole. I think we have the regulatory perspective here, and I think we also have the eroding of community trust. And I think both of those are existential threats to this industry, and both of these are things that we're looking to achieve through projects like Thor Financial, but also through projects like Hive Investments, which is a project that I'm a founder of, which is another DeFi as a service project on Polygon, but also through the organization that I built out called the Union of Transparency, transparency, where essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to band high quality ethical protocols together and offer investors an ecosystem of safer projects to invest in. They know that they're not going to get scammed on. What we're trying to do is we're trying to perform that independent self-regulatory force within this industry to really help progress and aid this industry and to be able to deal with both of these, institutional level threats to our industry simultaneously. So, we're working in conjunction with lawyers from the SEC. We're working from the Union of Transparency perspective. We're working in conjunction with lawyers from the SEC. We're looking to be in a position to help regulators who fundamentally don't understand our industry, who are a bunch of, no offense, but boomers who don't understand crypto, to help them to help them form regulations into our industry that are going to be fair and that aren't going to be draconian in nature. I think we all understand that regulations are going to come to this industry. And so I think it's far more intelligent and long-term thinking for us as ethical actors within this industry to band together and to be a participatory role within those regulations coming to make sure it's not draconian, first of all, but then also to offer investors that safety net where they know that, not every protocol they invest in is going to work out. This is a new industry. We're pioneering new things, but, they know that they're not going to get scammed. And that's one of the biggest issues that are hitting this industry currently.
Agreed. I mean, just honestly being able to eliminate the character or intention of a project adds so much credibility, because I've had a lot of friends that have gotten, and by the way, Rugged, just so for anybody that doesn't know, Rugged is a project that intentionally builds its protocol around stealing from the people that invest in it. I mean, that's what rugging really is. Maybe sometimes unintentional, but
rugging does have a clear definition, and it's a term that's kind of used in the colloquial the colloquial vernacular of the industry for any protocol that fails. And while that's not absolutely not true, rugging by definition is when protocol operators are removing the liquidity from the liquidity pairs, meaning that you can't trade that token. That token goes down to a $0 price point. That's essentially what rugging is. And of course, in effect, that's what it does, is they're stealing money from the community. And that's something that we, at the Union of Transparency, that's our whole goal is, we're looking to become that self-regulatory industry. So, we're making sure any protocols coming onto the Union of Transparency have to dox themselves, which means reveal their personal identities to us, and also sign very clear and defined consent contracts, allowing us to publicly release that doxed information should X, Y, or Z malicious behavior be happening. What that does is, it prevents, well, it doesn't necessarily prevent, but what it does is it provides a huge incentive for us for protocol operators to operate ethically. We all of a sudden have leverage that we've never had before, and we're utilizing that leverage on behalf of the safety of the entire all the investors in the entire scene as a whole. And that's exactly what we're trying to build at the Union of Transparency. It's a relatively new concept that's being introduced, and what we're hoping to do is play a participatory role on the evolution of this entire industry.
I love that. I mean, because you need to, honestly, like me, I'm a new guy, right? You could say that being in DeFi since late November, early December means I'm an OG, but I doubt it, right? It's a really small window. Like, people don't really realize that a week in crypto is 15 to 20 years in real life progress. Yeah. That's how fast it is. So it's crazy. If you say, hey, I have 5 months of experience, you have 50 years of experience, which is if you put the work in.
Yeah, I must be a real old boomer then, because I've been in crypto since late 2016. Thought I was a complete and utter genius in 2017. I'm making all this money, and then I lost it all in 2018 and cried myself to sleep. We've all been through a lot of learning processes here, and it's true. The rate that crypto moves at is an exponentially fast rate, and that's because this is a brand new emerging industry. It's very difficult to stay on top of everything, and that's the reason we think the educational side is so important. We have a culture within DeFi that people call each other apes and degens. And while that's a good culture, and it's good for its own, like, insular kind of culture behind it, it doesn't work conducively for a serious industry, a financial industry within this, within our larger financial institutions. And so what we're trying to do is we're really trying to push the evolution of this industry, which means educating people, which means giving people very clear objectives and incentives to learn education. That's one of the things that we're looking to build at the Union of Transparency is, both protocols have that, membership status to where they've gone through the investor protectionary measures, but individuals can also get Union of Transparency memberships and get a free NFT out of it by simply going through our educational systems, going through our educational curriculum, passing our tests. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to, simultaneously deal with investor trust and make sure investors understand that they have a union of protocols that they can invest in and feel trusted with. We want to be in a position where we can work in conjunction with regulators to help form regulations for this industry that are going to be inherently fair for everybody, but also really help promote the education of the average investor within this space to really stop, to really stop a lot of this degen behavior, because inherently a lot of these malicious actors prey on that kind of as selfish, greedy behavior. They prey on people who are chasing ridiculously high APYs that mathematically will never ever work. And that's kind of something that happens when an industry is at its infancy stages. I just think we're starting to reach a point in DeFi where we need to start getting past those infancy stages and really push forward that evolution that I think we all know where DeFi could go.
It's funny as you sort of encapsulated a couple of things that Rich Dad is. We focus on, like, there's really two emotional factors to investing, and it's typically fear and greed, right? Those are the two, like, worst versions of this. And unfortunately, in the DeFi space, what I've noticed is it's a lot of greed, not a lot of fear, right? Like, and I think that what you guys are trying to do is bring stability in, so fear is never the problem, right? And greed becomes somewhat irrelevant, because greed is not a good attribute to have investors have the mindset of, right? Fear is not a good mindset to have investors from.
No, and because DeFi is on this like razor edge, virtually, is people fluctuate from that extreme greed to the extreme fear daily, right? As soon as that token starts to go down in value, it's all of a sudden the project's dead and it's the worst end of the world, right? Or if the project's if the price is going up, it's how much more money can I draw out of the system? How much more money can I draw out of the system? Both of those come down to, in my opinion, uneducated decisions. It's people who have expectations that are not in line with reality. It's people who are expecting, the Lambo overnight kind of people. That mentality really speaks to how, infantile this industry is. This industry has been, run by both ethical and unethical people, but it's mostly been invested in by a bunch of millennials, people in my age group who fundamentally don't have that financial literacy, but are looking to have, opportunities that previous generations saw in previous investment avenues. And so I think it's the obligation of, leadership people within this space to start progressing the educational side as well as the safety side, so we have that protection and we cover both that fear and greed side.
This is why you and I are talking, right? Like, I'm here to only, like, I'm the idiot in the room. I just want to, I really enjoy cash flow through crypto. I think it's a brilliant concept. Rich Dad thinks cash flow is king. So, for me, the congruency, but the bare bones of it is if you don't spend the time getting educated on this stuff, you're either doing it for the wrong reason or you're probably going to get burned pretty bad, right? Like, I've luckily not been rugged yet. And I might be, but I bet you I won't be. I think I spend an inordinate amount of time learning this stuff and communicating with people in your community and others.
You have the experience behind it, right? You're someone who is not coming in from that, financial illiteracy that we see. That's the standard place. And obviously, I think there's some blame there to fall on to the educational systems that exist within our countries. what it does, in my opinion, is it opens up a lot of malicious actors to take advantage of that ignorance and to take advantage of this skewed expectations versus reality to create projects that are by design designed to fail. And they're designed to essentially funnel that money away from those individual investors over to the protocol operators. And I think that is inherently the whole reason why education has not become a bigger emphasis within this industry is there's a lot of people that stand to benefit from the current status quo. And, that's fine, but the current status quo is not sustainable in my mind. I think there's only so many times that people can get burned, and they're going to get burned over and over and over again. And there's only so many times that they can be burned before they just go, screw it, I don't want to participate in this space. And that's a real problem because, anyone who truly understands DeFi, understands smart contracts, oracles, and how those two integrate, go, oh my God, the potential of this is the future. The potential of this could revolutionize literally all of our current financial institutions. There is just a superior way of doing it. But that reality can never be put into place until we have a legitimate investment avenue and a legitimate way of investors becoming educated on realistic expectations of returns.
Agreed. And that's why I love having a discussion with you, because that's my goal. My goal is I want everybody to be in crypto, not because I am, not because it's like the cool kid on the block, but in reality, because it has a real strong play against a system that's antiquated, riddled with bureaucracy, and riddled with a lot of fraudulent people that have the wrong intentions. And for me, this eliminates a lot of those things. And that makes me interested in investing in it because I'm a pragmatic person. I don't like to feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So I feel like it's funny as we transition into DeFi, which I really wanted to talk about more so from a perspective of longevity, sustainability. But we've sort of delved into that already, which is
we're having an organic conversation, right? So I mean, I'm happy for it to go into whatever direction it used to go.
I'm gonna throw my questions away for now.
Well, look, here's the revolutionary thing about DeFi as a whole, and this is completely my perspective, right? We have this current financial system that is so heavily centralized to a few decision makers, and what that does is that allows human greed to play such a dramatic controlling factor over the entire industry. And we see a lot of malicious people, as you're saying, a lot of greedy people, a lot of people with bad intentions. And unfortunately, there's no way for us to change it because they're the ones that hold all the power. DeFi all of a sudden decentralizes that in nature. And when you have a decentralized, automatic smart contract process, for example, right? And this is the example I always give to people on why I say DeFi is so revolutionary to our current financial systems. Let's just take the concept of insurance, for example, right? Where you have an insurance company, you pay your premium, that it's done through actuary tables. We take the probability of X, Y, or Z event happening, and people can pay out. And when people submit a claim, it's got to go through the human verification process. There's a bunch of different processes that have to happen. They have a financial incentive not to pay out. That there's a bunch of different reasons out there that insurance screws people over. Whereas in reality, all you have to do in DeFi to offer an insurance policy is to have what's called an oracle, which is something that takes off-chain data. So any piece of data that does not exist digitally and relates that over to a smart contract, which just essentially is it executes just an instance on certain variables. So how that could play out in reality would be a farmer, for example, could get crop insurance, and that could be done through DeFi, where that farmer can pay a lower premium because that smart contract doesn't have marketing, doesn't have payroll, doesn't have buildings to take care of, doesn't have HR, doesn't have legal, doesn't have all these other costs of expenses, right? But utilizing an oracle can go, okay, I want to be paid $100,000 should it not rain for 5 days in a row given in this certain month, right? Where a smart contract could execute on that insurance policy by utilizing data from an oracle. An oracle could take that weather data from that geographical location, feed that into the smart contract, where that smart contract automatically executes on that payout going to that insurance policy holder without any human intervention. So all of a sudden, we're taking the maliciousness out of it. We're taking that greed out of it. We're taking the elements that humans, are inherently done, and it's been done throughout our financial institutions throughout history. We're all of a sudden turning that into an automatic, easy to understand and transparent process. That is the revolutionary aspect of DeFi. That is how DeFi can change our entire financial institutions. It's only going to happen as this space matures and evolves, because it's in this baby infancy Wild West zone where people are getting taken advantage of on a daily basis because this isn't common knowledge. This isn't things that people understand. And so that's the reason, our objective is not just to create fantastic communities that are based about education and giving people opportunities to ask these questions to people who fundamentally do understand it, but to also start incentivizing people to get that base level of education. And we're doing that through the Union of Transparency, and we're doing that through Thor.
And you know what's really cool? Because the underlying thing that you're talking about here, in my mind, like I like to boil things down to like the simplest level, is bias, right? And bias is a lot of time is based on lack of understanding or complete understanding, right? And I feel like that's what you're trying to eliminate, right? Is like, I just bought a second home. I was super worried about getting it appraised properly, right? Yep. That appraisal is 1,000% based on the appraiser's
personal opinion.
Personal opinion, right? It's on a lake. What if you had a sister that drowned, right? All of a sudden, like, bodies of water are horrible and my house is less valuable. Like, it solves a lot of real world bias-based opinions, which bias typically is based on lack of understanding, in my opinion.
100%. 100%. And so, that's the beautiful thing about DeFi is it takes all of those choke points, those historical choke points that has to go through some human opinion, bias, greed, ulterior motives. It takes all of those elements out, and it completely filters it to a simple automatic process that's transparent and immutable. And immutable just means can't be changed. It's just simply code. And that's the real revolutionary thing is it's not only a cheaper, you can offer insurance policies, going back to the insurance example, you can offer insurance policies for much cheaper than what you'd see from a historical insurance company, because there isn't all these additional costs that go around designing the product, right? That product just exists. Yes. It's just a piece of code, right?
Brokers and all the other bull crap that goes
You don't have payroll, you don't have buildings, you don't have upkeep, you don't have infrastructure, you don't have legal, HR, all of that. You don't have to have any of that because it's an automatic process. And when we're dealing with different financial products, realistically, there is no need for all these superfluous things. There is no need when everything's just done legitimately and automatically. So there is no human bias that plays a role. There is no trust that needs to play a role. It's a completely trustless system. And to me, and I think everyone else who understands and exists within the DeFi industry goes, oh wow, this is very clearly the evolution. The people who out there who have an issue with DeFi either fundamentally don't understand DeFi and the capability and the potential of DeFi, or they're the same kind of people that were arguing against the car in favor of the horse and buggy. That you have to lay out all these roads and you have to build out petrol stations.
It's going to be horrible. We're never going to be able to do that. Like,
exactly.
It's work. Yeah.
Honestly, it's in my opinion, I think in your opinion as well, this is just clearly tangibly the evolution of the future of our financial industries. However, it has its own existential threats, and those existential threats come from malicious actors and regulations. And so we as a community need to get out and start evolving our industry into a much more legitimate space. When we can do that and we can demonstrate to the traditional finance and to the bankers of the world that this is a serious threat to their organizations, that's when we can really start to change and reach that mass adoption that we need to reach within the DeFi community.
Oh, it's already happening. I mean, you have Goldman Sachs talking about it, like probably one of the oldest financial institutions. Like, the government's talking about it, and they're not super quick to respond to new things. So yeah, Like it's a threat to them as well, but not in a bad way. Like it just, again, I will keep going back to like, I thought it was bullshit too, right? Until like I started to work at it and get educated about it and see like the value in it. I've learned more about traditional economics through DeFi and Discord and white papers on Medium. Like I've learned more about traditional finance in the 48 years I've been alive in the last 5 months because of that. So like there's a huge value to it.
The information's out there and it's easily accessible in public, right? The only thing that we're lacking as an industry as a whole right now, I think, is that incentive. And we have to start offering incentives because I don't think everybody has that innate curiosity in how these industries work and to like really understand how revolutionary of a concept DeFi really is. There is a small select few that are interested, but we're all kind of finance nerds, right? We're all kind of nerds for it. What we're trying to do is we're trying to institute incentives and methodologies in place to encourage people to really understand it for themselves. Knowledge is power. And the great thing is knowledge should be free for everybody. Yes. And it should be easily accessible, and everybody should have that baseline fundamental understanding on how these institutions work. Because when we all understand it, less and less people are going to be scammed. And that's really important to me as an individual, as someone who's been through scams, as someone who's from the community who, when I did not know everything, I was getting scammed and I faced rug pulls, and I've been in this industry for years. It's very difficult for new people to enter this industry and feel comfortable without having that baseline, real clear path to understanding. And that's exactly what we're trying to achieve with the Union of Transparency, Thor, and of course, Hive Investments, the other protocol that I'm in on.
Yeah. And honestly, like this is why we're talking again. Like you and I have a parallel vision, and I want to do it from a educational perspective. And I know you guys do too. But like awareness and education, and luckily, Robert and Rich Dad have given me a platform where I can like communicate with people. But my goal is to like, I just want smart investors that are interested in projects, that understand that it is risky as crap. Like it is risky. It is Wild West, but like trust is valuable. Community is valuable. Education is valuable. Outside of that, like, I don't know anything else that couldn't guide you in the right direction with crypto, or at least from the DeFi or cash flow. By the way, DeFi, cash flow, and passive income are synonymous words. Just for anybody out there who doesn't get it.
Yeah. And look, it's something, it's difficult, right? Because this is also a brand new industry. So it in order for somebody to really understand DeFi and participate within DeFi, there's a certain level of foundational knowledge they have to understand. They have to understand what a decentralized exchange is. They have to understand what, a Web3 wallet is. They have to understand that difference between Web2 and Web3. They have to understand certain elements in order to even get that start. And that's the reason I think it's really important what you guys are doing over here on the CryptoVerse podcast. It's really offering that that baseline education and really just helping to massage people who may not have an innate interest in DeFi to, have information in an easy to digest manner. And that's something that, that's the reason I'm on this podcast right now. I'm more than happy to participate in, because I think that's exactly what this industry needs as a whole.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, like education is king, like cash flow is king, but you can't get proper cash flow without being educated first. You really can't. I mean, otherwise, you might as well just go to 7-Eleven, Circle K, whatever your convenience store is. I don't know what you guys have up there, but just go buy a scratcher ticket. Like it's sort of the same, cut from the same cloth.
Well, also not having an educated investor base also creates a massive opportunity for malicious actors to come in and take advantage of that ignorance. And with this being a decentralized and unregulated industry, there's massive amounts of potential and incentive for malicious actors to participate within this industry. And because it's not, there's not not a centralized body that can stop these people. We have to, look at it from the other side of the coin. The only way that we can stop these malicious actors from, offering bizarrely high APYs and, just allowing people just to ape into anything, we need to start creating an educational stream where people can, understand why this mathematically does not make sense, why this project does not make sense. And what that does is that dries up the investor pool from these malicious actors. And to me, that is the pure and utter solution. That's how we stop these malicious actors from participating in our industry. We start educating people so they can make their own decisions, and their decisions go, oh, what are you doing? I'm not buying into this. And so we can't stop them, but we can dry up that investor pool. And that's exactly what our intentions over at the Union of Transparency are.
Yes. And it circles back around to the thing I talked about initially. And this has been really heavy. We should probably cut it off pretty soon. Okay. It does circle back around to the one thing, right? Like if any of you out there just join a Discord community, just start to ask questions, you will feel the difference between somebody that's has the intention to steal from you, or maybe some people that really, really care about the idea of what's happening. And I would challenge you to go to the Thor Discord. It's open. What's your website? Thor.financial?
It's Thor.financial. So you can check us out. I'm not going to lie. We have probably a very ugly website now. We are debuting a brand new UI that will be coming out in about a week or so. Yeah.
It's not bad, but join the community. You'll see what we're talking about. You don't have to buy anything. Just jump into general and shoot the crap with some people.
Just hang out. You'll know I'm Loki over there. So, I'm more than happy to chat with people. I'm a big DeFi nerd, and I just want to create a ecosystem that exists that everyone can benefit in. That's so important to me. And that's the only way I see that this entire industry can evolve. Yes.
And my goal is to aid protocols and ideas like that to move forward, and also just remove all of the BS that comes with just crypto in general. It's insufferable and it's wrong. So I want to solve that. And on that, I feel like that's a really good note to end on. I really do. All right. Well, thank you so much for having me. I very much appreciate it. Looking forward to this going out, and looking forward to hopefully welcoming some new people into Asgard. That's what we call ourselves. Come on over to Asgard and discover what makes us so special. It's pretty special. Thanks, man. All right. Thank you, brother.